Mr. Trump making it very clear as a Republican nominee he will have a very different tone and tenor when it comes to the military, speaking to an audience in Philadelphia to say that he will beef up defense spending. This at a time when Democrats have been arguing we're spending much more than we even need now on defense, and that it eclipses what the 7 leading countries on this planet are spending combined. Nevertheless, Mr. Trump says it is high time we put our priorities in the right places and commit a plan to deal with all nefarious elements across the globe. Those include ISIS and defeating and destroying ISIS once and for all. Mr. Trump saying that when he takes office, he's giving top generals about 30 days to come up with a plan to finish them off once and for all. Andrew Smith is a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot. To fill in some of the other details here, he is essentially saying, Amber, you know this far better than I, that it is high time we start looking at how much we're committing and where we're committing that money when it comes to defense, right?
Yeah, I think that it was commander-in-chief material. It was a leader who recognizes that we need to rebuild our military that has been slashed for the past 8 years. So what we're seeing now is a military that is forced to do more with less. And that puts our military at risk. It puts our national security at risk at some very higher levels. So some of the proposals that Donald Trump just outlined, I think were a much-needed change from what we've seen over the past 8 years.
You know, there are a lot of people who crunch numbers, and nerds like myself who are into accounting and all of that, who say maybe the issue isn't the $500 billion or $600 billion defense budget now, but how we prioritize. And before we commit to increasing it, we should look at how much we are wasting within it. What do you think of that?
Well, I completely agree. There's plenty of room for defense spending reform, and probably the thing at the top of the list is acquisitions and how we're getting some of those military weapon systems and different equipment that's needed throughout our military. It's a big problem right now, and there is definitely a lot of waste when it comes to acquisitions. There are so many layers of bureaucracy, but it's going to take a large overhaul. It's going to take people really looking into those government contracts and figuring out how to get rid of some of that waste, and also making sure that the equipment that the military is receiving is what the people who are having to fight these wars, those on the ground, are actually getting the equipment that they need, not just what some, defense lobbying firm is trying to get through to gain, a couple $100 million defense contract. So that's a problem that needs to be looked into. We could save a lot of money there, but also talking about the civilian federal force, you could say. So all of those civilians that work inside the Pentagon, it is way too big from what it needs to be, and so those numbers could get cut as well.
What did you make of what he was saying? It might seem like arcane budgetary issues up on Capitol Hill, but the measures in place now that called for a ceiling on defense spending, so what they call the sequester. I want you to react to this. Donald Trump on the sequester.
As soon as I take office, I will ask Congress to fully eliminate the defense sequester and will submit a new budget to rebuild our military. It is so depleted. We will rebuild our military.
You know, if you're a Democrat and you're hearing that and saying he's going to bust the sequester, I always used to call that, Amber, like the backup backbone for those who had no fiscal resolve to rein in spending. He takes that away for whatever, maybe perfectly valid reasons in these times. Democrats are going to say, then we feel the same way about entitlements. We feel the same way about other domestic budget priorities. And then it's going to lead to runaway spending as if it isn't runaway enough. And it's going to compound our fiscal problems. What do you make of that?
Well, I completely agree with Donald Trump. Sequestration has to go away. Our national security has to come first. Without a strong defense, we don't get to worry about those other entitlement policies and, everything else you just mentioned. So sequestration backfired. The only thing that it hurt was our military members and their families and our national security. And so sequestration needs to go away, but I completely agree. There needs to be reform across the board in terms of those entitlement spendings that we have on the other side of it as well.
He didn't spell out exactly how much more he wanted to commit to defense. He did raise an interesting idea that he wants a standing active army of around 540,000. Can he do that without a formal draft?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's going to take a strategy on the military's part, They're probably, you know, what we saw after 9/11 when we needed to boost our numbers as well. They give bonuses. So they say, oh, sign up for the military. You're going to get all sorts of different bonuses for joining in terms of actual cash incentives. But then you also have different other options with the military. With the GI Bill, you can get, you know, certain parts of college paid back. All sorts of different options come, sort of benefits to joining the military. So I think if they're really looking to up some of those numbers, they're going to have to, you know, re-push some of those bonuses. But it is hard times right now because, like we've seen, since Afghanistan and Iraq kicked off, we've been at war for over 15 years, and our all-volunteer force today has done multiple deployments, back-to-back deployments. It's hard on families, and it's hard on those service members as well that do it. So yes, we can do it without a draft, absolutely, no question. This all-volunteer force that we've seen in this post-9/11 world has been absolutely amazing at their job, and doing so back-to-back. But the strategy is going to change in terms of how to pull those people in and recruit.
Interesting. Amber, thank you very much. Good catching up with you. Sorry for the delay in getting to you.
Welcome back, Neil. It's great to see you.
Same here. Thank you.